Emily and Mark seemed like the perfect couple, the kind of pair people admired and envied. She was warm, creative, and full of life, running her small bakery with pride, while he was charming, successful, and impeccably put together, the kind of husband anyone would trust completely. But behind closed doors, the life they shared was anything but perfect. Strange disappearances, secretive behaviors, and hidden obsessions painted a far darker picture, one that Emily could feel but struggled to prove. Every smile Mark gave, every polite gesture to friends and neighbors, was a mask hiding something from the outside. Emily and Mark's life looked flawless. Their suburban home was pristine, with freshly painted walls and a perfectly manicured lawn. Friends and neighbors often commented on how lucky Emily was to have such a devoted husband, and Mark's charm seemed to win everyone over effortlessly. He worked long hours in finance, yet always made time to attend school events or neighborhood gatherings, smiling warmly and making polite conversation. Emily ran a small bakery from home, a business she loved, and Mark appeared genuinely supportive, praising her creations and encouraging her ambitions. To outsiders, they were the picture-perfect couple, a model of love and stability. But behind closed doors, the story was far more complicated. Emily began noticing small, unsettling patterns in Mark's behavior. Things she once brushed off now felt deliberate. The way he would check her phone under the guise of joking, the way he kept certain parts of the house locked, the way he asked unusual, pointed questions about her day. At first, she tried to rationalize these moments, telling herself she was imagining problems where none existed. Yet her unease grew, gnawing at her each night. Emily started keeping a private journal, recording incidents that made her uncomfortable, from missing personal items to strange bruises she couldn't explain. She wrote about the anxiety that built up when Mark's expressions shifted subtly from loving to cold in an instant. It was as though she was living with two different men, one for the world to see, charming and kind, and another behind closed doors, controlling and unpredictable. These private notes became a quiet witness to her growing fear. She couldn't share them with anyone. No, the first real sign that something was terribly wrong came during a weekend trip they took to a quiet lakeside cabin. Emily had hoped it would be a chance to relax, to escape the small tensions building at home. But from the moment they arrived, Mark's behavior was unsettling. He constantly checked his phone, often disappearing for long stretches with vague excuses about making calls or checking on work matters. Emily noticed receipts tucked into his jacket pocket from places he never mentioned visiting, restaurants, hotels, and even flights that didn't fit with the itinerary he had shared. At first, she tried to convince herself that she was overreacting, that these things had innocent explanations. But then she found the folder on his laptop, cleverly hidden under layers of innocuous files. It contained photographs of women she had never seen before, along with notes detailing their routines, addresses, and intimate personal information. The meticulous nature of the documents sent a cold shiver down her spine. She could not fathom how someone she had trusted completely could devote so much time and care to studying the lives of strangers. The obsession was not casual. It was methodical, frighteningly deliberate. Every name and note felt like a puzzle piece in a larger, sinister plan she could not yet see. As Emily sat in the dimly lit cabin, the walls that were supposed to shelter them now seemed to close in. She realized that the man who smiled at friends and charmed neighbors was capable of calculating manipulative behavior hidden behind a perfectly ordinary facade. Her fear grew with each passing hour, a gnawing sense that the man she loved was a stranger in disguise. She knew she needed to find out the full extent of his actions, but the knowledge that Mark could be watching, even now, made her every move feel dangerous. The idyllic weekend had transformed into a chilling awakening, leaving Emily. The tension in Emily's life escalated when her best friend, Clara, disappeared without a trace. Clara had been outspoken about her concerns regarding Mark, often joking that Emily was married to a secret monster. But Emily had never taken her warnings seriously, until now. At first, Authorities treated it as a routine missing person case, assuming Clara had run off or gotten lost, but Emily sensed immediately that something far more sinister had occurred. The timing of her disappearance, the subtle connections to Mark, and the uneasy feeling that had been growing inside Emily for months all pointed to a horrifying possibility. She began retracing Clara's last known movements, looking for patterns or clues that might have been overlooked, and every detail seemed to circle back to Mark. Emily pored over phone records, social media activity, and notes she had already made about his secretive behaviors. The evidence was circumstantial, but increasingly difficult to ignore. She started documenting everything meticulously, creating logs of Mark's daily routine, screenshots of messages he claimed were work-related, and notes on the small inconsistencies in his stories. Each observation added to a growing picture of a man capable of deception on an alarming scale. Emily's fear was no longer abstract. It had taken a sharp, tangible form. She felt the weight of danger pressing in on every side, knowing that any misstep could put her at risk, too. Her home, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage where every creak of the floorboards or unexpected knock became a signal of threat. She knew she had to act carefully, but every passing hour brought new anxiety. The disappearance of Clara was more than a personal loss. It was a terrifying confirmation that the world Emily thought she knew was riddled with hidden dangers, and that the man she married might be at the center of a nightmare far larger than she could have imagined. Desperation pushed Emily to take a risk she had long avoided. She decided to install hidden cameras in their home. The thought of spying on Mark felt wrong at first, but the fear gnawing at her mind left no room for hesitation. She placed small, inconspicuous cameras in areas where he seemed most secretive: the office, the basement, and even the living room. At first, the footage appeared mundane. Mark went about his daily routines, helping with chores, checking emails, and occasionally laughing over dinner. Everything seemed normal, almost reassuring. But Emily knew better than to trust appearances. Slowly, the unsettling details began to emerge. In the dead of night, Mark would enter rooms quietly, moving with a precision that felt practiced, almost rehearsed. He whispered into phones or left small notes in hidden places, gestures that seemed meaningless until Emily pieced them together over time. One clip left her breathless. Mark rifled through her personal belongings, lifting small items, examining them, and slipping them into a nondescript bag with an eerie calmness. The realization hit her like ice. His charm and warmth were masks, carefully constructed to hide a darker, more calculating side. Each recording revealed layers of his personality Emily had never imagined. His movements were deliberate, almost ritualistic, and there was a chilling sense of anticipation in the way he handled objects, as if every action had a hidden purpose. Emily watched in silent horror, knowing that what she saw was only the tip of the iceberg. The more footage she reviewed, the clearer it became that Mark had been living a dual life, one for the world to admire, and one for himself, hidden in shadows and secrecy. The evidence made Emily realize that she was trapped in a house with someone whose mind. Emily's worst fears were confirmed the day she discovered the hidden safe in the basement. It had been cleverly concealed behind a false panel, its presence almost impossible to detect without knowing exactly where to look. When she finally opened it, the contents were more horrifying than anything she had imagined. Inside were personal belongings of women who had gone missing, carefully cataloged and arranged with chilling precision. Each item was labeled with a date and location, as if Mark had been keeping a meticulous record of his crimes. Alongside these possessions were envelopes filled with confessions, written in Mark's hand, detailing not only the acts he had committed, but also the intricate steps he had taken to avoid detection. There were notebooks with names, addresses, schedules, and intimate observations about each woman, painting a terrifying picture of premeditation and obsession. It became clear that this was not a series of impulsive acts. Every movement had been calculated, every encounter planned with cold, deliberate intent. Emily felt a wave of disbelief, followed by an almost paralyzing sense of danger. The man she had married, the person she thought she knew intimately, was capable of acts that no one could have imagined. Her hands shook as she went through the documents, realizing that she held irrefutable proof of his crimes. At the same time, the safe revealed the full extent of his duplicity, the contrast between the charming husband everyone admired and the calculating predator he truly was. Every smile, every gentle gesture, every word of affection now carried a sinister undertone, as though they were carefully crafted performances designed to mask his true nature. Emily understood that the revelations in that safe changed everything. She was no longer simply fearful. She was aware of the deadly reality she had been living with and the urgent need to act before anyone else became. Fear consumed Emily as she realized that confronting Mark directly could put her in immediate danger. Every glance, every word, every movement had to be carefully calculated. She began to craft an escape plan, a strategy that required patience, precision, and absolute secrecy. She documented everything meticulously, creating detailed logs of Mark's routines, habits, and the times when he was most distracted. Each piece of information became a critical part of her strategy, a thread she could follow to ensure her safety. Emily took small, deliberate steps, leaving no trace that might alert him to her growing suspicion. She stashed important evidence in hidden places and encrypted her digital files, knowing that even a single slip could destroy months of careful preparation. At the same time, she maintained a facade of normalcy, performing her role as the devoted wife, smiling when he entered the room, and responding to his questions as if nothing were wrong. The tension was suffocating. Every creak of the floorboards, every unexpected knock on the door, sent shivers down her spine. Emily knew that the house she once felt safe in had become a trap, a carefully constructed environment where she was constantly watched and evaluated. She secretly contacted law enforcement, providing them with fragments of the evidence she had gathered while ensuring Mark remained unaware of her actions. Each day that passed increased the stakes. One wrong move could end her life or destroy the opportunity to stop him. Despite the constant fear, a determination grew inside her, a determination to survive, to expose the truth, and to prevent him from harming anyone else. Emily's life had become a high-stakes game, a dangerous dance of observation, patience, and careful maneuvering, with every moment carrying the weight of potential discovery and catastrophe. The day Emily planned her escape brought with it a horrifying revelation that shook her to the core. While reviewing some files she had hidden on Mark's laptop, she uncovered evidence of a second identity he had maintained for years. It wasn't just a fake name or email. He had an entire life in another state, complete with documents, digital records, and connections that linked him to dozens of women. Each discovery was more disturbing than the last. Notes detailing meetings, travel plans, and methods of manipulation that revealed a level of control and premeditation that Emily could hardly comprehend. He hadn't just been deceiving her. He had been running a network, meticulously managing relationships, routines, and encounters with chilling efficiency. Emily felt a sense of dread unlike anything she had ever experienced. The man who had smiled at friends, comforted neighbors, and presented himself as a devoted husband was capable of calculating acts that were nearly impossible for a normal mind to conceive. The realization that he could live one life for the world and another for himself made every memory of him feel tainted. Every moment they had shared now shadowed by deceit. Emily understood that she was in possession of explosive knowledge, evidence that could expose years of crimes and save countless potential victims. At the same time, she knew that being discovered, even now, could mean disaster. Her escape plan took on new urgency, but also new danger. Every step had to be precise. One mistake could alert him to the truth and put her in immediate peril. Yet beneath the fear, a steely resolve took hold. She had uncovered the full scale of Mark's deception, and with that knowledge came responsibility. She was determined to see justice served, to ensure that his hidden life and the horrors it concealed would be brought into the light where it could no. Emily's careful planning finally paid off, but the aftermath of her actions brought both relief and an unsettling clarity. Law enforcement moved quickly once she provided the evidence she had gathered, and Mark was arrested before he could destroy any of the records or cover his tracks. The investigation revealed the full extent of his crimes, uncovering not only the women he had harmed, but also the intricate web of deceit he had maintained for years. Each revelation stunned the public. Here was a man who had seemed ordinary, even admirable, but who had secretly orchestrated a life of manipulation, obsession, and violence. Emily's meticulous documentation, hidden cameras, and careful preservation of evidence were credited with preventing further tragedies. Yet even as justice was served, she struggled to process the reality of what she had lived through. The charming, devoted husband everyone admired was nothing more than a mask, hiding a predator capable of acts that defied comprehension. Friends and neighbors struggled to reconcile the man they knew with the crimes he had committed, but Emily understood the truth in a way no one else could. Her life had been forever altered, and even though Mark was behind bars, the psychological scars remained. She found herself replaying moments, questioning how she could have missed the signs, even as she recognized the sophistication of his deception. Despite the trauma, Emily felt a sense of empowerment. She had survived, had acted decisively, and had ensured that the man she once trusted could no longer harm anyone else. The story of her life with Mark became a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder that appearances can be dangerously deceptive and that danger can hide behind the most familiar faces. Emily's ordeal forced her to question not only the man she married, but the very nature of trust and human behavior, leaving her